So we're gonna real quick show how we grind the grain into flour. This is my golden grain grinder. A sweet friend gave it to me. It's really cool because it's actually a stone mill grinder. If you take this thing out, you can see the stone in there, and it grinds, kind of extrudes out of the sides of it, and then it comes out of it into the drawer in the bottom. We'll give this a shot. I've got my bag here of hard red wheat from Azure Standard. I'm not really measuring, I'm just throwing some in there because that's how I do it. And about that much for now. And it just starts going in. Turn it on. And it'll fill up the drawer and just get going. So this is what it looks like when we're done. The grain is all gone. Went down in there, and then you pull out the drawer here on the bottom full of flour. And we're gonna take that and go make our bread here in just a minute. Hi, I'm Lisa, and I wanted to share with everybody how to make fresh bread. And today we're making it with fresh ground flour because I've been making bread for a long time. I love to cook. I have 8 kids, and so I need to feed them. I love to cook and I love to make things cheaply. Just recently, I've started experimenting with grinding my own flour fresh from the whole wheat berries. I got a video we're gonna cut somewhere in here, I don't know. Doing that with my mill. I'm not in my house right now. I am using my mother's beautiful kitchen. So my grinder grinds it into this kind of cool drawer, and it's full of fresh flour that we just ground. I'll put a recipe with it because I'm not the best at doing things exactly the way they should be. So we're gonna see how this goes. The reason I do fresh ground flour, like I said, this is a new thing for me. I've played around a lot with different flours and sourdough. I love doing sourdough. One of these days I'm gonna do a video on doing this all with sourdough, but today is just plain yeast bread that anybody can make. It's really, really easy. There is a lot of health benefits to fresh ground flour that I didn't know until a few years ago. There's a bunch of oils, like beneficial oils in fresh ground flour that kind of go bad / rancid when you buy flour from the store. Fresh ground flour should be used within about 3 days, or you can refrigerate it and it'll last up to a week, or you can freeze it and that's good for about 6 months. About that much in my bowl. Like I said, I'll post a recipe because when I grind it, I don't know how many cups of flour I'm gonna end up with. So I use what I grind to make bread. So I will post a recipe that's a little more exact, but for now we're just gonna wing it. This is my handy dandy KitchenAid. If you have this, awesome. If you have a Bosch, even better. Those things are super cool. You can make bread without it. Don't let me fool you, you totally can. This is just for those of us who are lazy and don't want to knead. Before I got this, my husband got me this one for Christmas actually. I was just mixing all the ingredients in a bowl and kneading it in the bowl until the next knead. So you knead bread 2 times. You knead it the first time, the initial knead, to build up the gluten, and then you let it rise for about an hour, and then you come back and you knead it again, and then you form it into loaves or whatever you want. So we have our flour in there, and to the flour I'm gonna add some salt. We're gonna go with about a couple teaspoons, that's what I'm gonna say, or a teaspoon and a half, that's what it looks like. And I'm gonna add a little bit of organic sugar. You don't have to. I like to add a little bit in there because I think it gives the yeast a little more something to eat. A little bit extra doesn't really hurt. I'm actually going to mix this up a little bit before I add my yeast because yeast and salt don't like each other. So when you're adding ingredients, don't put the yeast in with the salt or in next to it because it gets angry. Another thing you can do, what a lot of people do, is proof the yeast first in some warm water. You can do that. This is just what I do because it's easier. And again, this is like a very all-purpose recipe that anybody can do. Doesn't really matter the flour. You can make this with pretty much anything. So about 2 tablespoons. I'm used to pouring it in my hand. That's why I'm looking so silly here. A couple tablespoons of yeast, and we're gonna mix that around a little bit too. And then I add oil and warm water. You need warm water to make the yeast rise and be happy. And you can add other things too. You can put milk. If you're making like a brioche or a softer bread, you can put eggs. You can put different fats. This is all very basic right here. So there's lots of room for playing around with it. The one thing that's important, I don't know if I mentioned about the water. So yes, it should be warm, but not hot. If your water is hot, it will kill the yeast, and your bread won't rise. And you don't have to have a thermometer or anything like that. Just feel it with your finger, see if it's hot, see if it's not. If it's warm, not gonna burn you, like think baby bath water. Sorry, I have a lot of kids. So we're gonna start adding the water and the oil. One thing to keep an eye on, and I'll note this in the recipe, is you don't want it to be too dry. You're better off having it slightly more wet than too dry. Dry loaves don't rise very well and they're just kind of dense. So if you're gonna err on the side of being a little too wet. We'll get this started a little bit. I pour some water in and then do the oil just because I figure it mixes a little better. This is about 4 cups of water. I don't know if I'm going to be using all of it, but we'll find out. So just add water a little bit at a time as it's going. That way you're not doing too much. You can always add a little bit more flour if you need to, if you really do go overboard with the water. But like I said, I err on the side of a little too moist. So I have that going pretty good, and I will show you what that's looking like in a second, and it'll start making a ball and going around and cleaning the side of the bowl, and we'll knead it for, I don't know, 5 minutes or so. I actually do it until my mixer gets on, which is about 5 minutes. So let's try that. Starting to make a ball, cleaning the sides. We're gonna let that keep going for a few more minutes and check back in. So it's been about 5 minutes. And if you'll notice, so the goal of kneading is to activate the gluten. And that's what makes it stretchy and sticky and makes your bread rise. Oops, not really good with this filming thing. So I'm gonna scrape down the sides of the bowl, and we will cover it up and let it rise. So I bought this handy dandy scraper on Amazon for like $2. I don't know. I love this thing. It's so handy. You can use a spatula or a spoon or anything. It doesnn't make any difference. I'm in love with this thing. It's so silly. But anyhow, we're just gonna scrape down the sides of the bowl. And so I was thinking, again, I didn't really explain all the reasons I do fresh ground flour versus just flour in the store. I have made whole wheat bread with flour that you buy from the store lots of times, and I always think it comes out kind of dry and dense and blah. And when a friend of mine actually turned us on to, grinding your own wheat and baking with that. And I was a big skeptic because I like my bread. This is the reason we're having a whole bread video, is because I like bread. I like to eat bread. And any way I can make it healthier is even better. But I also want it to taste good. And I wasn't really excited about big, thick, dense loaves of bread that are just kind of meh. Fresh ground flour is a world of difference. Not only, it tastes amazing. It doesn't taste, I don't even know how to describe it. It is a denser loaf. It's not like what you're gonna get. It's not like a French bread, white bread, type thing. But it doesn't taste heavy, and it doesn't, I don't know. We made sandwiches with it the other day. We made peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and because we were going on a picnic, and I was kind of like, oh no, you're gonna take a bite and then you're gonna have to drink a bunch to get it down because it's gonna be dense. But it really, really wasn't. It was soft and moist and amazing. Anyhow, so I love eating it. But also some of the other benefits of grinding your own flour are obviously that whole wheat berries, pretty cheap. I think I want to say it's like 60 cents a pound when I buy a 50 pound bag. So I buy it from Azure Standard. They have a bunch of awesome stuff. If you've never done it, go to azurestandard.com. They're amazing. But I buy a 50 pound bag of, this is hard red wheat, there's hard white wheat, there's soft white wheat. Soft white wheat you kind of want to stay away from for making bread. It's great pastry flour. It has less gluten, so it doesn't work as well for bread because it's not going to rise like you want. Anyhow, sorry, I said I was going to scrape down the bowl, and here I am chatting. So it does that, and it also lasts forever. You can, if it's in a dry, I mean, if you're storing it in a dry place, whole wheat berries last indefinitely. So it's also really handy that way. So I feel like I was gonna go on. Oh yeah, sorry. Nutrient loss, that was it. There's far more nutrients and, like I said, those amazing oils that you don't get from a bag of flour, bag of whole wheat flour at the store. Anyhow, I digress. So we get this in there. This is what it looks like right now. We are going to, it's still, you can feel it's still warm. We're gonna cover this with a towel and let it chill out for about an hour, give or take, and see where it's at. And then we will knead it one more time and we'll bake. So it's been about half hour, 45 minutes. It has risen considerably, risen. We're gonna go with risen. Anyhow, and so now we are going to get it out of the bowl, knead it again, and put it into the bread pans. So this is where the scraper comes in super duper handy, because I hate washing dough out of bowls. And so the more I can scrape out, the better. This is, it's just a piece of canvas actually, but you can buy it at any kitchen place or on Amazon. It's called a pastry cloth, or you can go to your fabric store and get a piece of canvas. It's not super exciting. I use it for all things dough related, biscuits, pie crust, bread, all of it. I love it because then the dough doesn't stick to the counter, because I hate it when dough sticks to the counter. Again, sticky dough, scraper, all things. So this is like, somebody gave me one of these, oh man, 12 years ago now. And I use it constantly. You don't have to wash it every time you use it. I just stick it in the freezer because that's what the wonderful lady who gave it to me told me to do. And it makes sense because it keeps bacteria and stuff from growing in between uses. But then of course you can just throw it in the wash whenever you need to. So we're gonna get this dough out. That's about what it looks like. Whoa, oops. And love my scraper. Sorry, we're just gonna keep going on about that. So this is what it looks like. Big ball of bread dough. Kneading bread dough is, I think it's therapeutic. It is fabulous. It feels so good. So this is obviously too big for one loaf. So we're gonna cut it in half and make 2 loaves out of this. I'll just put that one back in here for now. And we're just gonna knead it. You can knead for, I mean, I know there's rules and there's all sorts of stuff online about how long you're supposed to do all of these things and the perfect method for everything. My method is nothing is perfect, so I just do it however, which again, if I can do it, you can do it. If I can do it, anybody can do it. Because even if your bread doesn't turn out absolutely perfect, fresh bread tastes good pretty much no matter what. But you'll see how it's got stretchy, and you can see, sorry, this is going all over the place. If you do that and it kind of bounces back a little bit, it's a little sticky, so it's not working as well, but, and you can feel it kind of stretch, and it's doing good. So this one, I'm just gonna go ahead and knead it a few times and get it into a nice loaf type shape, like that, and kind of tuck it under the sides on the end until it's a lovely loaf shape. And then we're gonna put it into my bread pan. It's a little big actually, but this is just butter that I did that one with. You can, I mean, people, there's all kinds of sprays. Sometimes when I'm lazy, I just line the whole thing with a big piece of parchment paper. It all works. I think Trader Joe's has a cool coconut oil spray, but I've never used it. I should though, because I really don't like doing this. But this is what gets it done, because it's really, really, really horrible to make lovely fresh bread that smells amazing and it's stuck in the bottom of your pan. I think I got that one pretty well done. Take that off real quick. And then grab our other dough. And we're gonna go ahead and knead this real quick and put that into the second pan. It's gonna take, probably another half an hour or 45 minutes to rise. somewhere in that time, if you think about it, it's very, very helpful to turn the oven on. I try to turn it on after about 15 minutes or so, so it has a chance to preheat and be nice and hot for the bread. Preheat about 350 when in doubt. Yeah, that one's smaller. It's better to make them even, but you know, you do what you do. And that's it for now. We're gonna cover it back up with our handy dandy wash rag, dish towel, and do that. And we'll be back in about half an hour. So it's been about 45 minutes or so, and these have definitely doubled. The reason for the towel, by the way, I might have mentioned, put a towel or something over them, is so they don't lose so much moisture. Our air here is really dry, and they'll end up getting kind of a crust on top that doesn't rise very well. So that's why I always put a towel or something on top. The next thing I was gonna say is rising. They're gonna rise differently depending on the environment, so don't just go by time. If the dough is warm and your environment is warm, they're gonna rise more. If it's cool, it's gonna take a lot longer. So basically just go by how things look. The other thing I was gonna say is be careful when you're picking these up. Don't like set them down too hard or anything like that, because anytime you do that, it's gonna knock the air bubbles down and they're gonna kind of deflate, which nobody wants deflated bread. So I've had the oven preheating for a little bit now. It's preheated at 350, and I took the top rack out, so there's lots of room for them to rise. And we'll go ahead and stick them in. So I'm gonna let that bake for about 35 minutes and we'll see where we're at. All right, the fun part, we're gonna take it out of the oven and see how it turned out. This is the smaller one and it's looking pretty nice. This is the bigger one and it's a little wonky, but again, wonky bread still tastes good. But because it's a glass pan, you can see on the bottom where it's nice and brown, and it should be done. So, because we greased our pans nicely, it should come out pretty easily. There's one loaf, and there's the other one. And now we have two fabulous loaves of bread. Wasn't super hard. Anybody can do it. There's 1,000 different ways to make bread, and these are just one of the ways. Do let it cool off a little bit before you cut into it. It's very tempting to cut into it right away, and I know I've done that a million times, so this is, you know. However, it is still kind of baking inside, so if you don't let it cool off, it can be a little gummy. But they should be all the way done. And if you have any questions about I don't even know how many things I forgot to mention, or questions about anything else, just let me know. If there's a whole bunch of them, we'll just have to make another video for all the things I missed. Otherwise, I'm happy to just respond. And yeah, that's it. Easy peasy. Now we get to eat it, other than pulling it out of the oven. The other best part is eating it. And we've let it cool down a little bit, so it should be lovely. Looks edible. We have a taste tester here who's gonna try and see if it's edible or not. Come here, Dad. Don't be weird. Mom says don't be weird.
What do I have to say though?
This is payment for them letting me use their beautiful kitchen to do videos. Yeah, that's exactly what you're supposed to say. Perfect. Got your lines down.
It's good. You want to taste it?
No, I could. Sure, thanks.
Good enough.
Still good. Yeah. Good luck. You can do it.
Well,